Hello, friends, and welcome to this brand new course on integrating ChatGPT into Unity. And hopefully, you can make a game out of it, maybe improve your NPCs conversation, and so much more. You can also create a mobile app that integrates ChatGPT and then publish it on the stores. So, yeah, let's jump right into it, guys. All right, so I'm going to create a new project using Unity 2022 right here. Okay, it's going to be a URP project to have better graphics. And let's call it ChatGPT X Unity. All right, let's create it. Let's wait for Unity to create the project for us. In the first lesson, we are going to set up the scene. Maybe try and also set up the chat interface, okay? All right, guys, now that Unity has loaded the project, we are going to import all of the assets that we are going to need. Okay, so you will find the assets joined with this lesson, so make sure to grab them. All right, I'm going to import them. Let's import. All right, everything is in here. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the tutorial info and the README. I won't need them. All right, cool. Let's quickly set up our scene. So I'm going to select lighting, environment here, and I'm going to change the default skybox. So it's actually not compulsory, it's just optional, but I like to make my scenes feel pretty so that it's more convenient to work with. Okay? All right, so let's grab our sky material. I think I call it sky. All right. Why is it black? Oh, okay, got it. I didn't have the right shader selected. So just change the shader if you have a black screen right here. Okay, so I'm going to change the colors really quickly. Let's first actually add the ground, okay? So let's create a new plane. So right-click in your hierarchy, 3D object plane. Okay, this is going to be the ground. Let's reset the transform. Let's call it ground. Okay, cool. Let's increase the scale, maybe 50 by 50. Awesome. Let's attach the ground material to it. All right, here we go. So let's now change the sky's color. So let's look for the sky. Here it is. Let's change its color to something more joyful, maybe. Okay, maybe nice light blue right here. Something like that. Okay. Oh, I have the global volume enabled. That's why my scene is quite dark. So let's disable it. Okay, perfect now. All right, I want to make my ground a little bit more happier, something like that. Yep, cool. So now let's add a fog just to blend the ground with the sky. Okay, so I'm going to select lighting, enable the fog right here, and change the color to something maybe bluish like the sky. Okay, let's maybe increase the density to something like 0.03. Yep. Pretty nice, huh? All right, now I'm going to add my two protagonists. So the robot, the chatbot, and Pluggy. Okay, so Pluggy is the name of the main character. Got it? All right, I'm going to grab them from OpenAI test. Let's actually rename this. Let's call it ChatGPT X Unity. Okay, perfect. Let's grab the models from here. Pluggy buddy. Okay, buddy. Maybe move it along the y-axis. 1.5 seems pretty cool. All right, let's bring the camera a bit closer, somewhere around here. Okay, let's move it a bit more along the x-axis. So maybe 2.5, 3, 4. Yeah, maybe 3.5 should be good. Let's rotate it a bit. Okay, cool. 45 degrees, nice. I'm going to change its material right here. So let's grab it from the characters folder. So Pluggy, attach it, awesome. I'm going to add a little face to this buddy. Let's grab the face from tab seal, common, sprites, right here. I'm going to expand this sprite and grab the eye sprite along with the mouth sprite. Okay, cool. Let's create a new game object under the Pluggy body right here. So first off, let's unpack the prefab. Let's right click and create an empty game object. Let's call it face. And this game object will hold all of our face elements so that if we want to animate both the eyes and the mouth, we will be able to do so. Okay, nice. Let's grab the eye. Let's rename it right eye, so RI. Let's reset its transform. Where is it? Okay, it's somewhere around here. So let's move it along the z-axis so we can see it. Okay, cool. Somewhere around here. Yep. Awesome. Let's move it along the x-axis now. Okay, let's drop it somewhere around here, let's say. All right, let's now duplicate it, move it along the x-axis on the other side, and rename it left eye. Left eye, not AU. Come on. Okay, cool. Let's now grab the mouth and let's copy the transform of the left eye so that we can just place the mouth directly. Okay, I'm going to paste the position. All right, let's remove the rotation and move it somewhere around here. So 0 on the x-axis and maybe a bit down. Yep, seems pretty cool. Awesome, now I have a nice kawaii face. Okay, so now let's add the legs to our character. Where are they? So open the ChatGPT folder, models, pluggy leg. Okay, here we go. A bit too big, so let's diminish the scale. Still too big. Edit the scale proportionally. 0.3. Nope, still too big. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.15. Yep, 0.15 seems correct. All right, so now I'm going to create a new parent for the pluggy body game object so that all of the pluggy elements are under the same game object. Like so. Let's rename it pluggy maybe. Cool. Let's create a new game object for the legs. Awesome. And now I can grab my pluggy leg and make it a child of the legs game object. Let's also unpack the prefab like so and reset the position. Cool. Let's bring it down so that it touches the ground somewhere around here. Okay, nice. Let's move it along the... I would love to be able to move it along the local x-axis, you know, along this direction, the tangent of the body. But I can't because the body is the one that is rotated. So let's actually set the rotation back to 0 right here and apply to the whole game object, okay? That way, I can actually move the leg along the local x-axis. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. Nice. So this is the right leg. And let's actually add the left leg. Okay, like so. On the other side. And now I just need to change the materials of these legs. So I think that I have one somewhere around here. Characters, pluggy. Let's create one. Pluggy legs. It's simply going to be black. Okay, and let's set the smoothness to 0. Let's grab both the legs and apply the material. Okay, let's move this one down and remove it. Awesome. So now the lighting is a bit off. I don't like it, so I'm going to change it a bit more. So I want the source lighting to be a color. Okay, and let's make it a whitish color. Something like that. Much more vibrant like so. Awesome. I'm also going to change the strength of the shadows, maybe a bit weaker, okay? And we can also change the rotation of the lighting, something like that should be cool. Okay, nice. So let's now add our bot, okay? But I think that we are going to add the chat interface in the next lesson because it's a bit too long right now. Okay, so let's now grab our bot from the models folder. So bot face. Awesome, here it is. Let's make it a bit higher. Let's rotate it. Nope. Let's right click and create an empty parent so that we can move, rotate, and scale the parent instead of the renderer right here. Okay. So where is his face? Right here. Let's rotate it like so. Maybe minus 45 plus 90 degrees. Minus 90 degrees. Awesome. So pluggy was at 3.5 units on the x-axis, and this one is going to be at minus 3.5. Okay, cool. Let's actually rename it Chat GPT bot. Okay. Let's unpack the prefab. Cool. And let's add a face to our character too. So I'm just going to grab the face game object from Pluggy, duplicate it by hitting Control D or Command D for Mac users, and actually drop it here under the bot face game object. Reset the transform and check out where they are. So maybe rotate them by 90 degrees around the y-axis and drop them somewhere around here. Awesome. Nice. I've got a nice scene now. Maybe the camera should be a bit more up. Let's add an angle to it, 10 degrees. Let's maybe change the field of view, something like that. Okay, let's move it back a bit up. Here we go. Yeah, I think 5 degrees should be enough so that we can spot our two protagonists very well. Okay, I'm just going to change the materials for the bot right here because I don't like them. Okay, so bot box. Okay, let's select the bot face right here. Let's add the box and the screen. All right, the reflections are a bit odd. So I'm just going to disable the environment reflections right here. Okay, so we have, yep, this is way better. Perfect. So now that we have our two main characters, in the next lesson, we are going to add the chat interface, okay, and try and implement it, hopefully. So see you there. All right, friends, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to implement the chat interface and hopefully add logic to it. Or maybe let's keep it for the next lesson again. Okay, so let's go. All right, so the first thing I want to do here is create a new canvas. But before that, let's actually reorganize our elements in our hierarchy here. So let's right click. Okay, let's create a new game object for the environment. Okay, let's reset the transform. Let's grab the main camera, the directional light, and the global volume and drop them onto the environment game object. Same thing for the maybe gameplay elements. Even though actually plugin and chatbot and ChatGPT bot won't be in the actual gameplay. So maybe let's grab them and drop them onto the environment game object. Okay, so let's rename the gameplay game object UI. Let's reset its transform again. And here we go. Now we're done. Okay, so let's right click onto our UI game object and create a new canvas. So let's keep the name as canvas. We want to scale it with the screen size. So let's select it in the canvas scaler component right here so that Unity automatically rescales the UI depending on the screen resolution. So let's set the reference resolution to 1920. For the y-axis, I'm going to set 1080. Okay, so it's basically 1080p. Let's keep it to match the width. Awesome. And we're good to go. Okay, so first things off, I'm going to create a new image. This is going to be our frame, okay? The frame of our chat interface. I'm going to increase the size of my scene view right here so that I can spot my frame. Okay, cool. Scroll down. Awesome. Now I can see it better. Let's make it a bit bigger, something like that maybe. Yep, seems okay. Nice. So let's change the source image right here. Let's select something a bit more rounded. So you should find some in the assets folder. This one is too rounded. Okay, not this one. Let's instead use this one. Okay, so the rounded square, 50 pixels. Cool. So this is our frame. Let's stretch it with the height of the screen. Perfect. And now we can add the outline. So let's actually duplicate this frame. Okay, let's rename it frame outline. Perfect. And same thing here. I'm going to select an outline that we've got right here. So maybe the 15 pixel one, make it black. And here we go. Awesome. Okay, so I want the frame to be, let's say, blue. Cool. That's a nice interface. That's a nice color. And then I'm going to add a container at the bottom of the interface right here, just to add the input field and the ask button to ask questions to ChatGPT. Okay, so I'm going to right click, select UI image again, anchor it to the bottom of the screen. Let's stretch it a bit more. Perfect. Like so. I don't want to be able to see the image outside of the frame. So to fix that, I'm going to select the frame here and add a mask component. Perfect. Now it is working as expected. I can actually increase the size of the frame outline a bit just to hide those rounded edges right here. So let's increase the scale to something a bit higher. So 1.01 on both the X and Y axis. Okay. And now we're good to go. Awesome. Then after that, we are going to add our input field. So let's rename the image actually. So bottom container, like so. Let's right click on it, UI, and select input field text mesh pro. So you need to import the text mesh pro essentials to proceed. Let's do that. And it's done. It's actually pretty quick. So let's close the window. Not the one in your room, but this one I just closed. Except if you're cold, actually. Come on, we are diverging too much. Okay, so this is the prompt input field. All right, let's make it a bit bigger, something like that. Okay, nice. Let's center it. Let's maybe move it a bit higher, like so. Yep, nice. I'm going to change its color for it to be more visible, so maybe something a bit darker. Should we use the blue color? Or maybe a darker blue? Yeah, this one is nice actually. Awesome. I'm also going to change the sprite to a more rounded one, like we've done for the frame. So this one, yeah, this one is too rounded, but we can fix that. You can increase the pixels per unit multiplier right here, and it will actually lessen the corner edge right here. Okay, so yeah, let's set it to something like 3. Cool. And now we can't spot the placeholder text. So let's actually select it. So let's select the placeholder and change the color right here to something a bit whiter. But we will need to add a font asset right here. We don't have one yet. So let's actually select the Sublima font that you can find in the assets folder. Cool. Oh, I need to specify it right here also. So let's specify it. Cool. And now we can spot our text. Cool. Awesome. So let's change the color of our text right here to something a bit lighter. So maybe white. Nice. Okay, I'm going to remove the text from here. Can I spot the placeholder text maybe? I can't. Okay, so I couldn't see the placeholder text, so I've made a new one right here. So basically, I've just duplicated the text game object. You can rename it placeholder text, like so. Let's here enter a string. So let's say this is a, or maybe enter your prompt here. Okay, let's increase the transparency, so make it more transparent, and let's make it italic. Okay, nice. We've got something good now. So now we need to select the prompt input field and replace the placeholder text right here in this field. Awesome. So now whenever you enter text, hello world, the placeholder does get hidden. Okay, let's remove it, and now we can see the placeholder again. Awesome. Cool, so I guess we're done with the input field right here. So I've also selected the multi-line new line so that if we've got a long text, something like that. Okay, my keyboard is going crazy. It's automatically creating a new line. Okay, if we were using a single line, it would not work properly. Okay, we are now done with the input field. So let's add the ask button on the right of it. So let's right click on the button container, create a new UI button text mesh pro. Let's grab it and move it along the x-axis, somewhere around here. Let's make it bigger again. Okay, let's change its scale. Okay, so let's make it size proportional. So let's copy the height and paste it on the width. Awesome. I'm going to change the sprite right here. So let's select the generic button. Cool. And I'm going to change the color to something more visible. Maybe a green button. This color is actually pretty good. So let's use it. Okay, cool. So after that, I'm going to rename it Ask Button. Perfect. Let's actually change the text on the Text Mesh Pro component to something like Ask. Let's use our Sublima font and make the text a bit bigger. Perfect. I'm going to center it like so and change the color to white. Cool. So far we've created the input field where we can input the prompts and also the ask button to send the prompt to ChatGPT so that it can process it. Okay. So in the next lesson, we are actually going to create the discussion bubbles and create the layout. So see you there. All right, guys, welcome back. So in the previous lesson, we've actually implemented the input field and the ask button. And right now in this one, we are going to implement the discussion bubbles. Bubbles. Okay, let's go. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is select our frame. And under it, I'm going to create a new game object. So let's right click, select UI scroll view, because we want to be able to scroll up and down. So let's actually change the anchor to stretch along the width and the height. So you can press Alt and click it. Nice. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller right here. Okay, so maybe somewhere around here. Perfect. Maybe a bit more padding on the left and right along with the top. Or maybe let's keep the top as let's drop it here. Nice, so that the outline doesn't interfere with our messages. Okay, I'm going to set the scroll view transparent by diminishing the alpha. And I also want to uncheck the horizontal checkbox right here because we want our scroll view to be vertical only. So let's remove the horizontal and vertical scroll bars because we don't need them. I don't like seeing them. Let's also select the viewport, set the bottom value to 0. Okay, cool. We're doing great. Awesome. So let's now create our first discussion bubble. Okay, so for that, we should have a sprite somewhere around here. So under the ChatGPT X Unity folder, sprites, let's right click on the content and create a new image. So let's call it discussion bubble, like so. Awesome. I'm going to grab the discussion bubble, the normal one, because you have two. You have the normal one and the flipped one. So one we are going to use for the chatbot and the other one is going to be used for the player or pluggy in our case. Okay, so this is our first discussion bubble. Before doing anything, let's actually add a text mesh pro under it. This is going to be our text. Okay, so let's right click, select UI, text mesh pro. Okay, so let's call it message, like so. We are going to change the font asset to Sublima, change the color to black so that we can see it better. Okay, here we go. And at this point, we want our bubble to scale with the text size. Okay, so if we decide to change the anchor to stretch on the discussion bubble, and let's say set the automatic size right here, maybe a minimum of 1. If you increase the length of your text, so the longer the message, the smaller the font, okay? And yeah, that's quite bad actually. So let's actually create a line. So let's say lorem ipsum blah, blah, blah. And what you want to do is uncheck auto size first. Let's keep the font size to something like 35 or 40 as you wish. Feel free to experiment with this. And instead, we are going to select our discussion bubble, add a content size fitter component. Okay, so we want to fit the vertical axis. So let's select preferred size. Awesome. And for the content size fitter to actually apply, we need to add a layout component. So let's add the vertical layout group. Okay, perfect. So I've made some quick verifications right here, and you want to check the width and height for the vertical layout group. So right now, if we increase the size of the text, the size of the bubble will actually increase, and that's pretty good, huh? So if we increase the width of the bubble now, the text is going to display correctly. But we aren't going to change the width from the discussion bubble right away. What you want to do instead is select the content, add a content size filter. Okay, so again, we want to fit the vertical axis, and we are also going to add a vertical layout group, like we've done for the bubble. Perfect. So we want this vertical layout group to control the child size. That way the bubble does cover the whole screen width. So we are going to add some padding, so maybe 50, yep. Let's say 30 pixels on the left, 30 pixels on the right, maybe 30 pixels on the top also. Nice. And a spacing of 32. Awesome. So now we've learned how to create our first bubble and correctly configure the layout. So let's now actually create the other one. So let's duplicate the discussion bubble. Let's change the sprite of this one to the left one. So the other one, we are going to change the color to something a bit more vibrant, like this color, and set the text's color to white, like we've done for the ask button. Okay, so let's actually select both our discussion bubbles and edit the padding right here. So let's move the text, maybe let's add a padding of 10 pixels on the left, 10 on the right, and let's keep the top and bottom ones as is. Awesome. So now you can create as many bubbles as you wish, and they will actually scale properly. Look, if we try and copy this text, maybe duplicate it a bunch of times, let's hit play. Oh, that's the first time we hit play in this lesson, in this course. Awesome. Let's actually drag down, and I can't drag down. Why? If you can't drag down, this is because something is on the way. So let's select the event system, try and drag down, and you can see here in the settings, have a look at the pointer enter variable. You can see that you are selecting the frame outline, not the scroll view. So let's actually select the frame outline and uncheck the raycast target checkbox because we don't want to interact with this outline. And now you can scroll down properly. Cool, isn't it? You can also enter any text you want. And by the way, I think that we are going to increase the font size right here. It's quite small. So yeah, let's quit the play mode. Let's uncheck the raycast target of the frame outline again. Let's select our bottom container. Here we go. And let's change the font size right here. So let's add a text. So lorem ipsum again. And increase the point size. Something like that. Cool. So let's make it 30 again. Nice. So we've now successfully laid out our interface. In the next lesson, we are actually going to create a small script that will manage adding messages to this interface. So see you there. All right, friends, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to add logic to our chat interface. So let's go. All right, so first things off. I'm going to select the ChatGPT.xunity folder, right-click, and create a new folder. This one will hold our scripts, okay? So now I want to create a new script. So create a new C# script, and let's call it discussion bubble. Oh, come on, I forgot an E, and I pressed enter. Ah, okay, let's quickly change that. All right, so I will need to change it in the script too. So let's double click it. All right, let's also change the name of the script right here. Let's go back to Unity. It's going to recompile. And we are good to go. So what I want to do is go under the UI canvas, frame, scroll view, viewport, content, discussion bubble. Ah, finally, we reached it. Come on. All right. I'm lothing alone, please loth with me. Okay, so discussion bubble, we're going to grab it and attach it to the discussion bubble. Perfect. So now let's double click it again. and we are going to start implementing it. The first thing we want to do is include two libraries. So we are going to be using the Text Mesh Pro library along with the Unity Engine.UI library. So this one is going to be used for changing the message, and this one for changing the actual image of the bubble. So as you've noticed, the bot bubble is white and the other one is pink-ish, and it's not the same sprite also, so we need to take that into consideration. All right. So let's first add a reference to our message. So let's create a header to organize our variables. Okay, let's call it elements as usual. Let's create a new serialized field to be able to see private variables in the inspector. Private text mesh pro UGUI message text. Okay, so this is our message. Now let's add a reference to our image. So private image. Let's call it bubble image. And let's also add a reference to the sprite that we are going to use for the player image or the user image. So serialized field, private sprite, user sprite, user bubble sprite, let's say. Yeah. The variable names should be self-explanatory. Okay, you shouldn't need any comment in your script. Like it's the best thing to do. All right, let's also add a variable to store the color that we are going to be using for the user bubble. So let's call it, okay, so it's going to be a color user bubble color, like so. I think I'm going to create a new header for that. So let's call it settings because this is a variable that we are going to use, not like these. Okay. And finally, we are going to create a method to configure the discussion bubble whenever it's created by the, let's say, discussion manager or ChatGPT manager or any name that you would have given to your manager, okay? So let's remove the start and update method. I'm going to create a new public void method. Let's call it configure, like so. And it's going to take the message as an argument, so string message, along with a boolean that will specify if the message is a user message or a bot message, or if it's a ChatGPT message, okay? So let's call it is user message, like so. Perfect. So if the message that we have received is a user message, we want to change the sprite of the bubble image. So bubble image.sprite equals user bubble sprite. We also want to change the color of that image. So bubble image.color equals user bubble color. And finally, we want to set the color of the text to white because as you've noticed, the user's message color is white here, okay? So let's select the message text.color equals color.white. Perfect. So we've configured the message for the user right here. So let's add some common code to both the user and the bot. So let's say, so we want to configure the message text. So message text equals message, that the message that we have received or sent from the input field. And finally, we want to force a mesh update on our message text, because if we don't do that, the discussion bubble won't scale properly. It won't resize actually after setting the message again. So let's call message text dot force mesh update, like so. And we are done for this script. Now the discussion bubble is actually set up. So let's go back to Unity and specify our variables right here. Let's start by the color. The user bubble color should be pinkish. The sprite should be the discussion. Okay, let's write discussion bubble. This one, the one that has the bottom right corner squared, like so. The image is actually this one. So let's bring it down and specify it right here. And we are also going to specify the message. Okay. So this is the bot bubble. Okay, so let's make it a prefab. Make sure not to select a user bubble and make it a prefab because this one already has the pink color and the white color for the message. Okay, So I'm going to right click in the ChatGPT X Unity folder. Let's create a new folder for our prefabs. Awesome. I'm going to grab the discussion bubble and drop it onto our folder. And we're done. We now have a prefab that we can instantiate whenever the user sends a message or whenever we receive a message from ChatGPT. Awesome. So now we can remove all of the discussion bubbles actually, because in the next lesson, we will learn how to create a discussion manager that will be responsible for spawning or instantiating those bubbles. Okay? So see you there. Stay tuned, guys. We are almost at the ChatGPT level. All right, guys, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to create a simple discussion manager to handle creating our discussion bubbles. Okay? So let's jump right into it. For that, I'm going to create a new... Oh, by the way, let's grab the event system and drop it onto the UI game object. I didn't notice this guy. Now let's right-click now, create an empty game object, and call it logic, or code, or scripts, or managers, or anything you want. What does matter is that you have fun creating games and learning, actually. Okay? I do love teaching from my side, so I hope that you enjoy these courses. And if that's the case, please leave a review. And yeah, if you have some questions, ask and I'm going to answer. Don't ask ChatGPT, ask me instead. Okay, cool. All right, so let's now implement the logic for our discussion manager. So let's create a new game object. Let's call it discussion manager, like so. We are going to create a new script for that. So let's go to our scripts folder, right click, create a new C# script, and let's call it discussion manager. All right, perfect. So in here, I'm going to select it. So now I'm going to select it and attach it to the discussion manager game object and open it. Awesome. Okay, so first off, we will need to add a reference to our discussion bubble prefab. So let's create a new header. Let's call it elements as usual. Okay, perfect. And let's add a new field for our discussion bubble prefab. Let's call it bubble prefab instead. Yeah, I think it's easier to recognize. It's shorter and it's actually self-explanatory. Okay, cool. We also need a reference to our input field that we've got right here whenever it compiles. Come on. Yep. A reference to this guy, to this input field, so that we can grab the text that is inside of it and send it to ChatGPT. Okay, so let's go back to our script. I'm going to add the TMPro library. So using TextMeshPro. Let's add a serialized field for our input field. So TMPro input field. And let's call it input field. Yeah, we only have one. And finally, I want to add a reference to the content game object that will hold all of our discussion bubbles. So private transform, let's call it content, or you can call it discussion bubbles parent as you wish. I'm going to name it content. Or you can actually call it bubbles parent. Cool. So right now we are going to test things off without ChatGPT, okay? Just to check if all the bubbles are instantiated correctly and so on. So let's create a new private method, void. Let's name it create bubble, okay? So this will take a message as an argument and also a boolean, a user, if that's a user message or not, is user message, like so. Perfect. So what do we want to do? First off, I'm going to create a local variable, discussion bubble equals instantiate the bubble prefab under the bubbles parent. So now we have created a bubble. So let's configure it. So discussion bubble dot configure with the message and the is user message boolean. Okay. So now that we are testing, we're pretty much done for this method. And now we need to create a method that we are going to attach to our ask button. Okay. Let's create it above the create bubble method. So public void ask button callback. Okay. So what do we want to do in here? We want to grab the string from the input field and send it as a message, okay? So let's create a bubble in here. So we want to call the create bubble method, passing the input field dot text and true, because when pressing the ask button, it's always going to be a message from the user, okay? So after we've done that, I'm just going to create another bubble from the bot just for testing purposes. So let's add a message, something like message received with a random value plus random.range between 0 and 100. Okay, and of course it's going to be from the bot, so let's pass in the false. Let's pass in false in here, and we're good to go. So at first, I want to create a bubble from the bot, and let's say, hey there, how can I help you? How can I help you? Okay, so it's going to be false because it's from the bot, and we're good to go. Now let's go back to Unity. Let's assign these fields. So I'm going to right click on the discussion manager, select properties to have a floating window. Okay, so let's expand the UI. So you can press Alt and press the small arrow right here to expand or collapse all of the elements. Let's grab the content. Okay, let's drop it here. Awesome. Now we need to select our input field. So where is the input field? Right here. All right, input field, and the discussion bubble is right here in the prefabs folder. Cool. Now that we've specified all of our elements, let's give it a try. All right, first message received. So let's send a message. Hey, how are you today? Let's ask, and we can't ask because we haven't attached the callback to the button. We need to do that. So let's select the ask button. Let's add a callback to the onClick event. Let's select the discussion manager and select ask button callback. Awesome. Let's now hit play and we should be good. Hey there, how can I help you? Hey there, how are you doing? Let's ask. Message received, 84. Nice. We've received the message. Okay, let's try and ask again. Nice. 57. Let's ask again. Cool. We can go down, up and down to see the messages. But I would love to have an auto scroll feature because I need to scroll down every time I receive a new message right here. So yeah, let's try and quickly implement an auto scroll feature. Okay. And then we also want to remove this string whenever we ask. Okay. We want to clear the input field. So should we clear first or input? Yeah. Let's clear the input field first. All right, it's easier actually. So after pressing the ask button callback, what we want to do is call the input field and set the text to an empty string. Okay, so let's try quickly. Let's hit play. Okay, hey boy. Let's ask, and yep, the input field gets cleared. Awesome. Let's now implement the auto scroll feature. So I'm going to create a new script for that. So let's open the scripts folder, right click, create a C# script. Let's call it content auto scroll. All right, so now I'm going to select the content game object and add the content auto scroll script. Let's open it. So very quickly, let's open back Unity. So to make things easier, we are going to select the content, okay, and stretch it along the X and Y axis. It should stretch on the viewport, okay? This will make our job so much easier. Let's now hit play. Let's send a bunch of messages. Okay, like so. I think it's enough. Cool. So basically, we are going to grab the H delta, okay, so the height delta, and set the position Y value to be equals to this value. You see, because when we are down at the bottom, these both these values are equal. So let's do that quickly. Okay, I've opened the content auto scroll script. Let's create a new private void method to scroll down. Scroll down, perfect. So what we want to do in here is grab the rect transform component of the content. So rect transform rt equals get component rect transform, get component rect transform. Awesome. We can actually get the component at start because it will never change. So let's create a private variable for the rect transform. Okay, like so. Let's call it rt. Now we can grab this line and drop it in the start method so that we don't go and get the component every time we want to scroll down. Perfect. Let's now create a vector2 anchored position equals rt.anchored position. Awesome. And let's say the y value of the anchored position to be equals to the rt.sizeDelta.y. Okay, so the height delta that we've seen previously. But we don't want it to be less than 0. Otherwise, it will try and scroll up, you know? It's going to be weird. Very weird. You can try it. You can experiment, actually. And you will see what will happen. Okay, so anchored position.y equals mathf dot the maximum between 0 and the rt.sizeDelta.y. Okay, so we can actually remove this line because we are actually already assigning a value to the y anchored position right here. After that, we want to apply it back. So rt.anchored position equals anchored position. Here we go. So now when do we want to scroll down? Whenever we've got a new message. So whenever a bubble is created, we want to scroll down. So let's create an event for that. So I'm going to add the system library. So using system, like so. Let's create a new header for our events. Let's create a new public static action on message received. Okay, cool. So let's grab this action and drop it here just after creating the bubble. Okay, so let's invoke it to whoever wants to listen to it. So for those of you who want to learn about events, I have other courses where I go into details. Okay, and now of course we have an error. So let's actually specify to Unity that we want to use the random library from the Unity engine libraries. So using random equals unityengine.random, like so that we don't go and grab it from the system library. Awesome. We should be good to go. So now we need to subscribe to that event. So let's open the content autoscroll again. And in the start method, let's call the discussion manager.onMessageReceived and add a callback to that event. So whenever a message is received, we want to call the scroll down method. We are also going to unsubscribe from it in the onDestroy method, like so, just to prevent having some null reference exceptions. And we should be good. So let's give it a quick try. Let's hit play. Okay, let's send some random messages, like so. Ask, okay, now he did not go down. Let's try again. He does go down, but with a bit of a delay. You've seen? Let's try again. Yep, he does go down, but he is definitely delayed. Okay, so to fix that, we need to wait for a small amount of time before scrolling down. So for that, you can use a coroutine or invoke or a twinning library. Let's actually use the invoke method. Okay, so I'm going to create a new method. So private void delay scroll down. Okay, and in here we want to invoke the scroll down method after, let's say, a third of a second, something like that. Yep, should be good. So now instead of calling the scroll down method, we are going to call the delay scroll down method. Let's go back to Unity and give it a quick try. So let's hit play. Okay, so let's send some random messages again. And here we go. Now we are scrolling down. This is actually the end of the content here. Awesome. Cool. Okay, guys. Now let's get serious. I think that we've reached the point where we can integrate ChatGPT. So in the next lesson, let's learn how to do that. See you there. Stay tuned. It's going to be really interesting. All right, guys, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to start implementing ChatGPT in our game, okay? So for that, you need to go to this URL, and I'm going to make sure to add it in an article joined with this lesson. We are first going to import the package into our project, okay? So for that, we are going to follow the instructions right here. Okay, so let's copy the name right here, open UPM. Okay, so I'm going to open the project settings window, select package manager right here. Okay, let's make it a bit bigger. So open UPM for the name. Let's grab the package name right here. Okay, let's paste it. Let's go back and add the scopes. Okay, one by one. So let's add the first one, com.openai. And the second one is com.utilities. Okay, cool. Let's save. Perfect. Now we can open our package manager from the window menu, select My Registries, and add the OpenAI package. Let's install it. Okay, cool. Once it's done, you can close the window, and we can now start implementing our discussion manager to be able to get responses from ChatGPT, okay? So let's open the discussion manager. Okay, cool. Awesome. So first off, we need to authenticate to the OpenAI platform. Okay, so we will need an API key and an organization key. So first off, let's create those two variables, okay? So let's create a header for these. Let's call it ChatGPT or maybe authentication. Okay, cool. So we will need a string for the API key and another string for the organization key. Okay, or organization ID. Perfect. So let's make these serialized fields like so. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So where will you grab these from? You need to subscribe to the OpenAI platform. So you will need to open the platform.openai.com website, select your account, create an account first, and then select View API Keys, okay? So this is where you create your new key right here. Perfect. So after creating it, make sure to copy it because after that, you won't be able to see it. And for the organization ID, you want to select settings and you can grab it from here. Awesome. So I'm going to copy them, use them, and go back to you, okay? Okay, perfect. I've grabbed them and input them in my inspector, just hidden them, okay, so that you don't use them. Go create your own ones, come on. You are free to do so. And now that we've got our credentials, let's create the authenticate method, okay? So after the update method, I'm going to create a new private void authenticate. Okay, perfect. Let's create a new OpenAI client. So OpenAI.client, OpenAI client, let's call it API equals new OpenAI client, and in here we need to pass in an OpenAI authentication object. Okay, so let's create a new OpenAI authentication object, and we will pass in the API key. Okay, along with the organization ID. So organization ID. Awesome. So I'm going to pass in the first index because I've made it an array so that I can hide my data, my credentials. Awesome. So let's make it a bit clearer in here. We are going to be using the OpenAI library. So let's implement it at the top. Okay, cool. So I can remove this. I can also remove this and this. Cool. I will also convert the local variable here into an instance variable because we are going to be using it in another method. So let's grab this line right here. Okay. Let's create a new private OpenAI client API and we can remove this. Awesome. So at start, let's call the authenticate method. Cool. After authenticating, we are going to edit the ask button callback method a bit more. Okay. Okay, so let's first comment this line because this is the one we've used from the bot and we are now going to use ChatGPT, so we don't need it anymore. Okay. After that, we need to send our prompt to ChatGPT and grab its response. So let's store the response in a var. Okay, cool. So var, let's say response or result, let's say, equals API dot chat endpoint dot get completion async. Okay, and in here we need to pass in a chat request. Okay, let's quickly create a chat request before that. So OpenAI dot chat request. Okay. And by the way, we can actually use this library so that we don't have to specify it. So using OpenAI.chat. Awesome. So chat request equals new chat request. And in here, we need to pass the messages as chat prompts. Okay. Let's pass in our prompt here. So new. Let's first create a chat prompt. Okay, so prompt equals new chat prompt. And let's pass in the user as the role because this is what the user has said, not the system or not ChatGPT, okay? And we want to pass in the input field.text, okay? So in here, let's pass in our prompt like so. Okay, cool. Oh, it needs to be an array. So let's pass in the prompts. Okay, so this should be, let's say, a list of chat prompt. Okay, equals new list of chat prompt. Okay, and we are going to add this one. So prompts.add new chat prompt like so. Awesome. We now have a list of chat prompts. Oh, I've added one parenthesis like so. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so we passed in our prompts. Now we need to select the model. So model, the model, so openai.models.model.gpt3.5 turbo, like so. And you can have more information about the models on the platform.openai.com website. Okay, here they are. And after that, we want to pass a temperature of 0.2. Okay, so 0.2. No need to pass in to add the F for float here. Again, more information about the temperature on OpenAI's website right here. So basically the temperature is used to sample the data that you send, okay? So as it said here, it has to be between 0 and 2. So higher values like 0.8 will make the output more random if you want your AI to be kind of dumb, okay? But not that dumb. And lower values will make it more focused and deterministic. So if you want ChatGPT to give you better answers, okay? Perfect. Now we can grab our results. So in the get completion async method, let's pass in the request. Awesome. And because this returns a task, we are going to await for this result. So this method should be async now, okay? So let's enclose our result in a try-catch statement just to prevent having some errors if we don't get any result. So like so. Okay. Perfect. Debug.log e. So we want to debug our exception and let's pass in our result right here. Okay. So now let's assume that we have received a result. Okay. What we want to do is simply create a bubble with that result, actually. So let's do that. So let's create a bubble with the message, which is the result dot first choice dot toString. Okay. And this is not the user. So let's pass in the false Boolean and we're pretty much done, actually. So let's give it a try. I'm going to hit play. Okay. Hey there, how can I help you? Let's tell him that my name is Tabsil. My name is Tabsil. Okay, let's ask. I'm sorry, I cannot answer your question without knowing what it is. Please provide more information. Guys, we've got a proper response from ChatGPT. Okay, let's ask another question. Do you know Udemy? Okay, here is the answer. I'm sorry, I cannot answer without a question or context. Please provide more information. So we need to add a context to ChatGPT. Otherwise, it won't be responsive, okay? For more information on that, you can have a look here. So in here, we first add a role to ChatGPT, okay? So first off, we add a system role and we tell him what he is, okay? After that, you can answer your question and he will answer. So in the next lesson, let's try and implement this, okay? See you there. All right, guys, welcome back. In the previous lesson, we saw that ChatGPT needed a context to be able to answer our questions. So let's try and give him a bit more context, okay? All right, let's go back to our script here. And let's now create a method to give him some context. So private void, let's call it initialize, okay? So in here, what we want to do is grab this piece of code, paste it here, okay? So we've got our prompts. Let's make the function async, all right? Let's call it from start, so initialize, cool. And in here, let's replace user by system, okay? And we are gonna pass in, let's say you are a Unity expert, like so. Perfect. So now we should call the initialize method. So he is a Unity expert, okay? After that, we can ask him anything you want. So let's see if that works properly. So let's go back to Unity. Let's hit play. All right, let's now ask something. All right, he has already answered our question because we sent a prompt. Let's try and ask something now. Can you explain what a mono behavior is? Let's ask. I'm sorry, I cannot answer your question without knowing what it is. Please provide more information. Again, same issue. What's the issue here? You need to send ChatGPT the whole conversation for him to have context, okay? For it to have a context. As you saw here, the messages is in an array. So we send him the whole array, not to just one message at a time. So let's see how we can implement that in our code here. So let's go back to Visual Studio. Let's now create an array of prompts or messages that we are going to send, okay? So let's create a new header for that. So let's call it settings, okay? Serialize field, private. It's gonna be a list of chat prompts because we want to add more prompts as we go. So let's call it chat prompts, okay? Let's initialize our list. So equals new list of chat prompts. Okay, awesome. So when initializing it, we want to add the initial prompts, okay? So let's write. So we've got our prompt here. Let's first convert this list into a simple prompt. So prompt equals this, like so. Okay, so this is our first prompt. So we can remove the request from here. Okay. We can also remove this. Perfect. And let's add this prompt to our prompts. Okay. So we can, by the way, we can actually remove the async keyword because we aren't going to await for anything to be returned. So chat prompts.add prompt. Okay. Perfect. So now he will know that he's a Unity expert. Then we also need to remove the list from the ask button callback method right here. And instead, it's going to be a simple chat prompt. Okay, so let's call it prompt. Let's remove this and let's keep the new prompt. Okay, we need to add this prompt to our prompts again. So chat prompts.add prompt. Perfect. And in here, in the request, we want to pass in the chat prompts instead, okay? Then when getting the result from ChatGPT, we also want to add it to the chat prompts, okay? So chat prompts.add new chat prompts, like so. Oh, by the way, you can apply the same logic that we've used before. So chat prompt, result prompt, no, let's say chat result equals new chat prompt, use system. Okay, cool. And we need to pass in the contents, so result dot first choice dot toString. Okay, let's add this here. Okay, to our chat prompts list. Oh, by the way, guys, just a quick thing that we need to fix right here. So right now, the issue is that we reset the input field text, but we pass it in the prompt right here. So we are always passing an empty string. That's an amazing issue right here that we've got. Okay, so now that we've fixed this issue, we can go back to Unity and give it a try. Let's hit play. Okay, hey there, how can I help you? Can you explain what a mono behavior is, please? Okay, let's ask and hope that he answers well. Awesome. So sure, in Unity, a mono behavior is a base class that allows you to attach scripts to game objects. Awesome. It's working properly. Finally, we got an answer from ChatGPT in Unity. Guys, that is clearly awesome. Okay, thanks. Let's ask something else. Let's say my onTrigger enter method doesn't get called. What can be the issue? So it should answer that you don't have a rigid body attached to either of the game objects. Okay, let's wait for him to answer. All right, here's something. Exact. Make sure that the game object with the collider that is triggering that event has a rigid body component attached to it. Without a rigid body, the onTrigger enter method will not be called. Awesome. Guys, that is awesome. Like, AI is clearly a game changer. All right, guys, now that we've integrated ChatGPT in Unity, in the next section, we are going to improve on it and see what else it can do, generate images, and many more. So stay tuned. As soon as I create the videos, I'm going to upload them. Hope to see you soon. See ya.